All right, welcome back to the 1.2 podcast. I'm Isaiah Ritchie here again with Jack Rettler. Today we're talking about sports. We're power ranking some sports based on a little bit different of a criteria. Um, and before we get into that, we're going to start with one of my pet peeves involving sports, which is the all or nothing mentality that we've sort of adopted as a culture today. Every radio show, every sports show that I see or listen to, they say, is the season going to be a disappointment if they don't make the playoffs, they don't make the championship game, they don't make the big tournament, the men's madness, things like that. Um, and it seems like that's the only goal anymore in sports. And if a team was good but they didn't win the championship, then they're forgotten forever. Um, and to me, the whole point of sports is twofold. It's either to participate, in which case it's fun, it's athletic, it's exercise, camaraderie, things like that, or it's to watch it and to be entertained by it. I mean, at its purest form, it's a form of entertainment, like going to a movie. And it seems like, with a movie, you go and you watch it, and if you didn't really like the ending but the rest of it was a lot of fun, it was still an entertaining movie. Maybe you'd watch it again, maybe not, but you were entertained, and so you don't feel gypped out of it. But on the sports side, it feels like, we go through, how many games are in a baseball season, Jack?
162.
162. We go through 162 games, make it to that weird play-in wild card game. Was it 3 games now? Whatever it is, we lose those, and now we're out, and the season was a failure. Ah, what a terrible thing. What happened to the other 162 games? I mean, didn't we have fun watching those? Didn't we have fun going to the park? Having a burger, a hot dog, and taking that time. Is it okay to have a losing season and still be entertained, or is that how do we get this all or nothing mentality in sports?
Well, I think it goes back to a conversation we had a couple episodes ago about defining success in your own life. And success is relative. And, there's so many people that, and speaking as one of them, tend to live and die by the success of their sports teams. And I think your point is maybe let's not have it as much affect us as much as that. And let's take a step back and perhaps smell the roses, if you will, and enjoy the entertainment aspect of it rather than the all or nothing aspect.
Right, right. So I'm looking at a list right now. We've got 4 teams who have never won a Super Bowl: Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, and Jacksonville Jaguars. Are those teams utter and complete failures in their entire time as a team?
I would say if you ask their fans, probably. I mean, you started rattling off these names, and my thought is, what a miserable fan base. What a miserable fan base.
We've got those 4 who have never won. We have the Arizona Cardinals, who went to 1 but didn't win. We have Los Angeles Chargers, who have never won. We have the Tennessee Titans, who have never won. Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, Cincinnati Bengals, Buffalo Bills, Minnesota Vikings. So 12 teams who I have to imagine that some of those seasons, maybe not work as a whole. I know you say miserable fan base for those guys. And I wouldn't disagree, for the most part, but I think, they wouldn't exist anymore if they were so bad and so miserable. If the point was not to be entertained and people weren't entertained by the the seasons, the ups and downs, and the ongoing games.
Yeah, there's obviously an entertainment aspect to it. and those organizations put out a product where they try and make money. And we support the team, we go and we give them our money. And it's a good experience. I mean, you can have a good experience, but be miserable in the long run.
So what if, for example, there was a team and they never won the Super Bowl, but they put, great games out every year. Maybe even they make it to the Super Bowl. Let's say even 4 times they've made it to the Super Bowl. Even back to back. Let's go back to back Super Bowls. But they lost every one of them. Would you say that was a failure, or were they still entertaining seasons and people were happy to have had them?
It's a hard question to answer. I wouldn't say it's a failure, because there are so many things. I just look at the impact. You could approach it from 100 different ways. Is it a failure in the fans' eyes? Is it a failure in the players' eyes? Is it a failure in the owner's eyes? Is it a failure in the management's eyes? And you could probably come up with different answers from each of those perspectives. To me, I'll look at in my own life. I've been a Packers fan since I was a year old, and I've been spoiled. I mean, that spans the Brett Favre,
Right.
Aaron Rodgers,
Right.
now Jordan Love eras. Spoiled with great quarterback play, a lot of playoff wins, but and you look at a fan base that maybe hasn't. I think of Detroit recently, for example. A lot of bad years,
Right.
and people, Detroit fans would say, "Oh, we would take that Green Bay experience over our experience." But to me, it can be so much more painful when you're getting close,
Right.
but not getting
Sure.
over that hump.
Sure.
And so I think there's a tendency when you don't have wins to say failure, but it doesn't mean that those 30 years have been a failure. But it hurts a little bit more when you get
Sure.
close, but
Sure.
not quite there. I don't know. We could talk about this for hours and still come to no good answer. But I think your larger point is something we should consider,
Well,
taking
and
a step back.
one thing that blows my mind is how often we see a coach fired after a relatively good season, right?
Yeah.
Where you get to the playoffs, maybe even you win your first game, um, and then they get fired because the expectation was Super Bowl or championship or whatever it is. And I understand sometimes there's a perception of, you have such a good team and yet you lost in this fashion, right? You couldn't win with this group of guys that we gave you, so we're going to move on. It just seems sort of dismissive of how difficult it is to win in professional sports.
That's the first thing I was thinking of as you were saying that. I mean, I don't think people appreciate how hard it is to win championships.
Right.
You've
Right.
got, in any sport, one team every
Right.
year that's walking away happy.
Yep.
If we're defining success by winning, which
Right. Right.
I think is the conventional thought, right? Or it's at least what most people default with. And the amount of things that you have to have go right to win a championship.
Yep. Yep. Well, so moving on then from watching sports, we'll talk about comparing the actual playing sports to watching sports. Now, you grew up in a sports family. You play a lot of sports, enjoy a lot of sports. What sports did you play in high school?
Baseball, wrestling, and I played football leading up to high school.
Sure. Yep, and I know you golf. I know you enjoy athletics in general. I had similar upbringing. A lot of athletics. Um, ran track for middle school. Golfed, wrestled. Um, I was in martial arts for a long time. So a lot of different sports in between the two of us. So let's compare those experiences of playing a sport versus what we're talking about, the entertainment value of watching a sport. So I'm gonna put forth kind of the criteria here. We're gonna power rank some sports as to their the enjoyment you get out of playing them comparative to the enjoyment you get out of watching them. So this is not a what sports do you enjoy playing, the least, or enjoy watching the most. It's what sport. It might be a sport that you do watch. You just like playing it so much more um, than you do watching it. So it could be a sport that you watch, but you know don't play, or would want to play. It's not a yes or no thing. It's that comparison between the two. So I'll get us started. I have a top five, and then we'll go off each other. So my number five is soccer, and it's not because I don't like watching soccer. I do like watching a game once in a while, although it's a heck of a time commitment, and but I just love playing it so much. I played soccer in high school, had a lot of fun. Scored a goal on a throw in. I don't know anyone else who's done that. It was a fun game to play nonstop, and but watching it just there's too many different teams, games, tournaments, systems. It's I was confused for a long time. Didn't even know how European football, soccer, whatever you want to call it, how it worked with the Premier League and the Champions League and all the different leagues, things like that. So I just never got into watching it, and it seems a bit slow when I watch it, at the professional level. But love to play it.
I'll my 4 and 5 are relatively the same. I don't really have any strong feelings. So 4 was going to be soccer for me. So I'll just, in the spirit of talking about soccer, I'll just put soccer at 5. And I don't necessarily, I've never played it very organized, but I like the idea of playing soccer.
We'll have to set that up.
Well,
Sometime.
I feel like I'm getting too old for that. I'm gonna pull a hamstring or something. But we would always kick the ball around in the backyard.
Yeah.
But for me, the difficult part, I do like watching soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I've recently gotten into the Premier League, but I think that's your point, and that's why it comes on this list for me. Is in America,
Mm-hmm.
it's so hard. I mean, we have Major League Soccer, not a ton of following and fan base. Hard
Right.
to get behind a team. There's nothing really locally that we can go to. We have some professional soccer around, but
Right.
it's hard to get into. It's hard to understand. I get what you're saying. The Champions League, okay, that's this collection of leagues from around the world that if you take top 4 in the Premier League, you're in, but
Right.
who knows how you qualify from other
Right. Right.
leagues. So I do think that falls on this list. Although, just a quick interesting point before we move on soccer. Apparently, I heard this on the radio the other day. I think it's today, is Barcelona versus Real Madrid.
Yep.
And
El Clasico.
it's the most watched sporting event in the world.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I want to say, don't quote me on it, but they're throwing the numbers out there. It's either 5 or 6 times more people will watch it than the Super Bowl, which it just blew my mind.
Puts things in perspective, huh?
I understand. I knew soccer was a bigger global game,
Right.
obviously, but
Right.
you still that's hard to comprehend.
Yeah.
How many more people?
Yeah. For a regular season game.
Right.
Yep. Yep. No, it really does put things in perspective when we're talking about sports in America. So,
Hmm.
all right, then I'm going to go on to my number four, and that is motorsports in general. Now, me
Whoa,
as
whoa,
it's
whoa, whoa! Is that a sport?
yeah, I thought we might get into that. You know, I see it if it's on ESPN. I'm going to go ahead and green light it. Even though I've been seeing some professional wrestling sports stories popping up on ESPN too. So I don't know. We'll have to reevaluate that criteria as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's no. That's
But
a no.
but if you can get paid to drive fast, then more power to you, I guess. Um, I've never raced myself, but I did grow up on the back roads of West Virginia, where from time to time we would see how fast we could get from point A to point B. So in that regard, rally racing I think would be a lot of fun. It's similar to the difference between track and field versus cross country. Like I would much rather run a cross country route than just run in circles around the track. So, I don't think I would really have that much fun watching NASCAR or a racing. But you put me on a dirt bike, you put me in a rally car, something like that. Get out in the country. I think that would be a blast. But watching it is just so repetitive, monotonous. NASCAR, I just don't get it. It's the same thing the whole time. I'm sure I'm making a lot of people angry by saying that. Um, and I get that there's so much strategy involved, but to me, a lot of that strategy is, are you going to run out of gas? And that's, I don't know. So that one's tough for me. So that's my number four.
You gotta watch Formula One. That's
Yeah,
that's legit.
that's
I like Formula One.
so Formula One I have trouble with though because you get like the top two guys and you just can't pass them. It's
Yeah,
just it's yeah I have trouble with that too.
and frankly, I've been turned off a little on Formula One recently because Max Verstappen with Red Bull has just become
Right,
he
right.
wins every race.
Yeah, and,
So
and before him, you had Hamilton, right? And so
yeah,
it was
I
sort of
mean, go
like,
back. Yeah, it's
yeah, you kind of have these people who once they get that car configuration and the driver right, and it's the same guy over and over and
yeah.
over again. So
But I do think they're athletes. Formula One,
yeah,
what you
yeah,
go through in
it's
that race car,
yeah,
you gotta be in good shape.
yep,
So number four for me is baseball. I like watching baseball. I feel like I'm gonna tell you I like watching all of these sports that I'm talking about.
that's fair.
But baseball, and I think about watching it on TV
Right,
compared to playing it and then experiencing it in person.
right,
Like I love playing baseball, going out back, throwing the ball around. Grew up playing baseball. It's a fun sport to me. I think it's becoming a better sport to watch on television with the rule changes, pitch clock. I
right,
love.
right.
I think that's. I generally don't like rules in sports, or I guess not rules in sports, but over.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
changes, big changes like that.
yeah. But that's been amazing. You've cut like 22 minutes off of the average game, which makes it a lot easier to watch.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I love going and watching it in person. Nothing like seeing that green grass and the smells and sounds of summer here in the wood bat crack. But when we're comparing it, I'd much rather play it than watch it on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, baseball didn't make my list because after T-ball or whatever, I never did play it. My friends and I just weren't into playing it. There weren't maybe enough of us to get, decent games going. Um, so playing it too for me, I mean, I enjoy it. It's fun, but it doesn't have the same level of enjoyment that of playing it. Then so comparatively, it didn't make the list for me. What did make the list, my number three, is tennis. And I'll actually put pickleball kind of in the same categories as tennis. I know there's a big shift towards pickleball for people, casual players, and things like that. Um, I really enjoy playing tennis. I think it's a fun, fast paced game. You kind of have to get good enough to get it over the net.
Hmm.
It's not, when you start out with tennis, you're kind of, it's a boring game because you've just done the net so many times. But once you learn, you get a little bit back and forth. And my wife and I played in law school a lot. It's fun, but watching it, it's just the back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I mean, that's just too small of a space, not enough kind of variety, I think, in what you get.
Yeah. In the spirit of continuing to talk about things that are also on my list, I'll go tennis is number 2 for me, but I can shift that around.
Sounds good.
Same reasons that you went through. To me, it's one of those lifelong sports.
Yep.
And so something you can do as you get older. It's relatively, harmless on your body. Obviously can get injured doing it, but
Right.
should be able to play it for a long time.
Right.
I like playing different types of surfaces. I've played on clay, played on grass. That variety is fun to me. A little
Sure.
bit easier on the joints, but watching it can be a drag. I do appreciate watching greatness.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
can appreciate that, and watching them. I think about I've talked about being spoiled as a Packers fan. I mean, the era of tennis that we've
Right.
had
Right.
on the men's and women's professional side.
Right.
I mean, I'm in awe watching Serena Williams. Like,
Right.
she just was a different specimen
Right.
out there.
Right.
Or watching Roger Federer and Djokovic, Nadal,
Right.
and now we've got this young era
Right.
of Carlos Alcaraz, and it just like watching what these guys can do
Right.
and women can do. It's
Right.
incredible, but it like the lower level, not lower level, but watching a first round Wimbledon match,
Sure.
you couldn't pay me enough to do that.
Yeah. No. I agree with that. Interesting things about tennis, these individual sports, right? Tennis, golf, racing, things like that. Um, you kind of you pick your favorites instead of geographic, team based sports. You end up with these individuals that you like. So that's a
Mhm.
different aspect of the those sports and entertainment value. Maybe there's a little bit of nationalism if you like a guy or girl from your country. If you're maybe grew up near one of them or something like that. I'm sure there's some local pride, but for the most part, it's kind of you get to pick from the whole cast a lot easier than team sports. So that segues nicely into my number 2 sport, which is golf. Um, Golf is fun on a day to just go out, relax, and maybe that's why I have trouble watching is because I want to be out there relaxing instead of watching someone else with all the pressure and the seriousness to it. I am not a serious golfer. Candidly, I'm not a good golfer. I'm a scramble golfer. I think it's fun. It's social, but probably people would look at it the way I play it and say that's not sport anymore. Uh, but watching it for me is just so low on my list that I just much rather be out there playing.
Yeah, makes sense. I'll break the trend here.
Yep.
Little foreshadow, but I'll get to golf. Um, Going back to number 3 for me would be basketball.
Okay.
I like shooting hoops. I wish I could shoot hoops more. I like to, when I was younger, I would play pickup games. I find basketball really hard to watch
Mm-hmm.
on TV,
Mm-hmm.
but really at all levels. I think about regular season NBA, boring.
Right. Right.
I used to like a good Big Ten slugfest. I appreciate good defense. And I feel like with the way college sports are shifting with this NIL landscape, It's becoming professional basketball. And like I think about the 2015 Badgers team, you got all these guys that came through the program together. That was fun. I liked watching that.
Yep.
But in general, basketball is very boring for me to watch. I'd much rather play it.
Right. Yeah, as the son of a wrestling coach with competing seasons, it's been ingrained in my mind from a young age that I should have nothing to do with basketball. And
Basketball bad.
yes, and my play on the court would reflect that as well. Not to say I don't enjoy throwing it around and like you said, shooting hoops. That's fun enough. But when it comes to watching, I've got next to zero interest.
I used it to cut weight.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Use one against the other.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then I'll move on to my number one. And again, is this a sport? Is this not? I think it takes incredible athleticism to do it. It's not really a nationally recognized sport, but ultimate frisbee, man, I remember college, high school, you get a group of guys together. You don't need, as many people to enjoy a game of ultimate frisbee as you do maybe a baseball game or a soccer match, but you get out there, it's just nonstop action. I loved playing ultimate frisbee, still do. I'll play that with anyone, anytime. Um, but watching it, for whatever reason, it doesn't have the hard hits of football. It doesn't have the precision of soccer. It just is not as entertaining to watch. It loses something, and I don't know what that is, but it loses something when you watch it. But I think more the reason it's my number one is how much I enjoy playing it. It's just so high up there. If you have, the option to play that or almost anything else, I'm going to play ultimate frisbee all day long.
Really?
I love it. Love it.
I find I do not like ultimate frisbee, playing or watching. And I think part of it's because I'm generally good at what I do sport wise, and I have never figured out how to throw a frisbee.
We found Jack's kryptonite.
Mm-hmm.
Can't throw a frisbee.
Here's the problem: is I'm ambidextrous,
Sure.
and like most things, I think I was born left-handed.
Right.
And I do all the things that you're not really taught to do.
Right.
Left-handed. I do everything that you're taught to do.
Sure.
Right-handed. But I can do most things both-handed,
Okay.
with both hands. I can't figure out which hand to throw a frisbee with. Like nothing feels natural. I think it's left-handed, but I don't have my wrist isn't as mobile left-handed
Sure.
as it is right-handed. So I don't know. I just can't figure it out. I don't like it. So that means it's bad.
So ultimate frisbee and frisbee golf are off your list.
Oh, frisbee. People are like, oh, this is so much fun. I love this. I'm like, I'm supposed to throw that down there. I try to throw a frisbee and it like duck hook. I mean, it's worse than my driver. Duck hook into the ground. One day it's horrible.
All right. Well, I guess
so that transitions into golf for me.
There you go.
Golf is by far number one for me, but not for any of the reasons that it was on your list. I love watching golf. Golf is probably my second favorite sport to watch. I'm such an old man when it comes to that. I would enjoy my Sunday afternoon to watch Jim Nantz on CBS call a golf tournament. I love it. It's relaxing to me. I'm into every shot. It's so nerdy and dorky that I fully appreciate that. Like people hate watching golf. I love watching golf, but proportionately, I love playing that much more.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I don't really have much more to say. It's just I love playing golf. I love playing with a group of people that scramble. I love just going out and playing against someone, match play. I love just keeping score.
Yep.
to again a sport you can play forever.
Yep. Yep.
I fully see my retirement consisting of visiting my kids and hopefully grandkids and playing golf.
Yep. Yep. So I think, and my the main reasons I don't like watching are, first of all, you've got so many people in the field, right? And on any given tournament, some of the best players in the world aren't going to make the cut, and so I I have that, and then at the end of the day, when I try to watch it and it's bouncing back and forth between all these different players. Like if you gave me 10, if the final day was like 10 players and you just watch them, it's easier to kind of keep track and follow. I think I would be able to get into that a little more. But when they're just switching from player to player to player and shot to shot, it's just hard for me to follow, hard for me to really appreciate the totality of that person's game throughout a tournament. The 4-day thing also gets me. When you're starting on Thursday and not finishing until Sunday, I mean, that's like a cricket match right there. So, I mean, we've got just too much time to invest into it to be up to where you need to be on Sunday when the champion is crowned, so to speak. So,
I do think to your broadcast point, golf struggles to put out a good product.
Yeah.
That people can get into and watch, and the whole live thing, we could talk about that forever. They're trying to change what golf it looks like.
Yep.
But I would encourage the Masters. I think does it the best. We just came off of that.
Yep.
And their big thing is they don't need all of this ad revenue, so it's less commercials, it's more golf. You're actually watching the players play,
right?
And you can get into it. They got featured groups you can watch on their website during the week, or you can track the group.
Right.
I wish I wish the broadcast was a little bit more customizable.
Yep.
Where you could pick, the Masters, for example, you can follow a featured group. You can sit in Amen Corner.
Right.
And watch 11, 12, 13. You can watch 16, which is a fantastic par 3. I mean, it's a fun experience. So I think I would suggest they should do more of that, but they can't always be the Masters.
Yep. Agreed. So I'll just throw in a couple others that didn't make the list. Fun ones, kind of bonus. I love badminton. I have to say I'm a huge badminton fan. And then bowling too. I love bowling. It's fun. Again, casual, kind of like golf, just casual thing you have fun with. But watching it,
we said sports, right?
And I was about to get there. I've never seen a bowler and said, "Boy, that's an athlete in his prime." That guy. I hope I'm not gonna wake up tomorrow. There's gonna be some bowlers outside of my house.
A
bunch of bowling balls ready to go swing.
Balls, yeah. Maybe some pins.
Yeah, there you go. But a couple of things. It's fun. It's fun to dabble in sports. Not always as much fun to watch.
What do they call it? Is it a shuttlecock?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or the American birdie, right?
Yeah. I thought shuttlecock was a better name for it. It's fun to say.
It is. Yeah. I don't think they let you pluck chickens anymore for those. But
our high school used to have a March Madness style tournament.
Nice.
For badminton.
Nice.
We're looking at a 2-time champ.
Oh, we'll have to get the net up sometime and test that.
Yeah,
test
doubles.
Okay, all right. Well, you need to find someone then. Maybe pull some.
One of my buddies, a former wrestler.
There we go.
I would tell him this to his face, so when he ultimately doesn't listen to this, but the guy would run through a wall,
right,
to do anything,
right,
just like see ball, get ball,
yeah,
and so nothing ever hit the ground ever,
right.
Like I was probably a little bit more of the finesse player.
Sure.
He was just like, get the ball up.
Yep.
And or
That's
the shuttlecock up.
that's one of the things that is fun about badminton because I was I played a lot in college with my roommate and he was the finesse guy, the tactician, and I was the athlete. So I would just be running back and forth, spiking it, slamming it, and he would just be touch shot, touch shot,
Hmm.
touch shot, keep me running, all that. So, and it was competitive. We both won our share of games. So it's I think badminton is a fun game that you can play for a pretty long time too.
Yeah, and that's like your point on, or talk about tennis before too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I, I'm like that person that nobody would want to play against because I'm nothing special at all. My goal is just get the ball back over the
right,
net.
right.
And like I would play with my friends who are really good at tennis, and they're like hitting all these drop shots and
Hmm.
bending the ball and curving it, and I'm just like stabbing at it just to get it back over. But
Right,
I keep getting back over. Like
right,
I could never put you away,
right, right.
but I could bore you to death. I'll make you make the mistake.
Right. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Badminton to me is kind of like tennis light. Like you can get the hang of it easier. So for kids and stuff, it's fun to get into, and it's easier to kind of get the swing of it.
I was always amazed too. Like it stays up way longer than you expect it to.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you feel like you got a good shot, you put it away, but you can, I mean, you can take that thing dang near off the ground.
Right. Right. I read something. Let me see if I can find it. Um, that a shuttlecock is the fastest, maximum velocity. Shuttlecock, a high drag projectile used in the sport of badminton. Um, Maximum velocity 306 miles an hour.
Wow.
So the let's see, the fastest object measured in sports is the badminton birdie, compared
Wow.
to 105 miles for a hockey puck, 211 miles an hour for a golf ball. So you think of the shuttlecock, it comes off the racket so fast, but immediately deaccelerates.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a fun little trivia question there.
Yeah.
Fastest
Go
object in sports,
take that to the bar and
right?
win yourself some
Hey,
money.
there you go. There you go. All right. Well, that does it for our power ranking of sports we'd rather play than watch. So we'll get out there in the world. We'll play some of these sports, but ultimately we'll probably be on our couches a lot watching them. All right. Until next time, have a good one. Find a sport, watch it, play it, whatever brings you some entertainment value.